Thank you everyone for coming to today's program. Hot topic lately in the construction industry is design assist. What does it mean? What are the impacts on the folks involved in the construction process, from the designer to the engineering firm to the general contractors to the subcontractors to the suppliers? So today's panel will hopefully represent each of those different viewpoints. We'll start far down, Mr. Tim Del Monte. Tim, raise your hand, say hello. Very good. Well, we'd ask for a round of applause, but we just got started. So, all right, so Tim brings a very strong background in subcontractor world and also with material suppliers and manufacturers. Next, we have Ralph Bertram. Ralph, raise your hand. All right, Ralph Bertram is a applications manager in CENTRIA Architectural Systems, extensive background in helping clients figure out how to properly apply the products that we provide into the marketplace. Our very special guest today, Mr. Bill Koonz. Bill, please raise your hand, everybody. Thank you very much.
Afternoon, everyone.
Bill's a licensed architect, Clyde Jubal-Wald here in Vegas, but extensive experience in various parts of the countries. And towards the end of our program today, we'll review one of the projects he was intimately involved with several years ago for a very large chip manufacturer in upstate New York. All right, so we're going to start with our first question, and we're going to throw this out to Bill. So design assist is a broad term, and it's used and interpreted in a lot of different ways. So how do you interpret design assist? What does it mean to you as an architect?
Well, I think the most important thing to consider is, whenever we talk design assist, it can have a wide variety of aspects to it. First, you can start with, a manufacturer helping an architect try to figure out what product to use, and it can go all the way to an architect or the engineer not providing services and leaving it for the contractor to figure out. They have a wide range of successes and failures. More traditional, us as architects are used to spending time talking to material suppliers and discussing how a product needs to be implemented into the project. But what I've seen in the last 10 to 15 years is a lot more of pushing off our liability and our responsibility onto the contracting industry and letting them design them. It started with stair design and structural engineers not really wanting to design a stair, and going all the way now to parts of envelopes, whether it's an envelope consultant or going right to subcontractors and letting them figure out what the system is and giving them a performance.
So that covers a lot of ground. So explain to me how the process works.
So it can work a couple of different ways. Oftentimes, if we talk more traditionally, as an architect, I would bring in a product that I want to use, talk to the product manufacturer, and figure out how best to use that. Everyone in the audience is used to that kind of thought process. But now what we're seeing, as an architect, I'll write a performance spec and say, this is what I want my envelope to be. And then put it out to bid. And the contractors come back and say, well, here's the product that you're going to use. And there are a lot of challenges when we talk about that, because what can happen is I may not get the aesthetic I want. I may not get the performance I want. I may not get the detailing and the ability to seal an envelope that I'm looking for. And it's all kind of out of my hands at this point. The reason it happens is because it saves the client money. And oftentimes it's driven by the clients looking to save budget on an envelope that they don't think is important. Vegas is an interesting discussion because everyone doesn't think there's a lot of need for a good envelope, but heating or cooling, it doesn't really matter. I need to worry about what my envelope can do for me.
Absolutely. So other than cost, are there any other advantages to an owner for using this type of project delivery?
So speed, that's probably the biggest. If you put it out to the contractor, I save money on the front end paying my design professionals to design something. They just have to give me parameters. And then I can get the contractor to design it and install it. I'm already paying them to install it. And through the shop drawing process, they can do the whole thing. It's an uneducated thought process, though, because you're just hearing, I save money and I save time. And of course, time is money.
So how can design assist affect your product or manufacturer selection criteria?
Well, I think the biggest problem with it is if you want design assist as an architect, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. So you've got to be educated enough to define that well enough so a contractor or whoever's going to be doing the designing can't go off into left field and come up with something completely different. Let's say, for example, I have a membrane roof and I define it as 3 different products, like I normally would in a traditional spec, or at least in this case, the performance of that product. Well, if they come back with a standing seam metal roof, still a roof, why can't we use that? But there's different parameters to why it wouldn't be acceptable. So.
All right, so this question is we'll start with Mr. Ralph Bertram. So from a manufacturer's point of view, explain the difference between pre and post bid design assist.
Yeah, as far as the manufacturer goes, and through the years I've been doing this, I can piggyback on some of Bill's comments that as far as pre-bid, we would have our sales staff find that opportunity, develop that relationship with the architect and or contractor to help develop maybe some products that would be useful to meet his performance spec. And at that time, we would get involved as far as the designers would go to get into a little more of the nitty gritty. And we would help the architect contractor to help develop some of the details around air barriers, weather barriers, things of that nature relative to our product. What's really nice about going at it this way, I'm able to find maybe some issues with manufacturing, maybe some issues with installation at that time, get that out of the way so there's no surprises coming down the line. So that helps the overall process at the end of this design assist when it goes into the next phase and it's released, that through the approval process, as it comes back to, say, Bill, for instance, there aren't any surprises, and we can save a lot of time and a lot of effort that way. So that's our goal. And post-bid, the rules are typically already set up based on the bid. The amount of time we put into it, what the expectations are going to be to meet, I'll use Bill again, Bill's design for aesthetic and performance that's already taken care of. So what we're trying to do, again, is trying to look for any kind of misapplication of product to head off some issues down the line. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, and to push the approval process to decrease time to help meet schedule and help assist in construction.
Very well, thank you. Tim, as a subcontractor, or your experience working for subcontractors, what was your expectations from a product manufacturer regarding design assist support?
Yeah, working as a building envelope subcontractor, the building envelopes are very complex, and there's a lot of misinterpretation of really how these assemblies go together. And as a subcontractor, we're there to guide and to kind of navigate the waters a bit, but there's another level of technical engineering support that a subcontractor just doesn't have, and they really need to rely on a product manufacturer that has that technical support. And so, we did glazing, we did insulated metal panel system, rain screen systems, and there's just frankly questions that a subcontractor can't answer when it comes to maybe code compliance. We're talking NFPA 285 for insulated metal panels if we want to combine materials, and some subcontractors have those resources, but most don't, and they really do need to rely on a product manufacturer that has the background, has the technical staff, as Ralph was talking about, the pre and the post-bid support. Those companies that have that support are invaluable, because with the design assist process, you're part of a team. It's a collaborative effort. The subcontractor's part of that team. You have the general contractor, of course. We have an owner, architect. But we really need to have a product manufacturer that has that technical deep support to answer those questions and to navigate some of the code questions that arise. And finding those types of manufacturers are invaluable and really are an invaluable part of a design assist team. going forward, and making sure the owner gets the performance that they're looking for, the design intent, but most importantly, really keeping it within budget as well. Having a manufacturer that has the ability to look back and maybe come up with some different panel configurations or substructure design to still allow for the design, but maybe we have some budget constraints, but let's talk to the engineering team of our product manufacturer and see what are the limitations of this product, and maybe we can take out some costs in some other areas to really still keep the design intent, keep the budget, and frankly, keep the schedule. So.
Very good, thank you. All right, Bill, this question's for you, sir. We have seen numerous large design build projects over the past decade where a GC has procured a specialty subcontractor to help with design assist for some systems such as building envelopes. The subcontractor provides the budgets based on preliminary design concepts, but just as importantly suggests materials and systems that would also meet the performance criteria. So my question to you is, as an architect, what are your concerns over this scenario?
Well, I think we've had really an evolution in really design assist as we talk about right now. Initially, it started out as, we put it out there, the contractor deals with it. But now what we're starting to see, and it's really the only way design assist works, is it's really a collaboration not only between the design professional and the manufacturer, but the contractor as well. And if we don't have that tie together, then we really end up with challenges. Everyone else, as an architect, we look at the whole building. So our responsibility is to look at every part and piece. And whether I have somebody else do it or not, I'm still liable for any errors and omissions that occur. So, and we can get into the legal ramifications of all of that, but really what it comes down to is how do we best save time and money and still get the product that everyone needs. So what I like to see happen now is when there's a collaborative effort between the contractor and the design professional and the manufacturer, and we make those decisions holistically so that we all have that input. As long as we do that, design assist can be very successful and really helpful on a project as opposed to kind of the traditional way of doing things.
So how much influence do you have in selecting materials and vendor partners versus the general contractor in this scenario?
Well, so, that's one of the interesting things. And again, it's all dependent upon how that relationship is established. What I like to say is I'm going to play the role, or at least when it comes to me, I'm going to play the role of the architect no matter what. So if a manufacturer and the contractor come back with a product that's not going to fit our needs, I'm going to tell them. And it wouldn't be the first time I've rejected a product during a design assist process. And there have been times where I've rejected it multiple times because it's not going to meet the client's end needs. And it's really a part of education. You have to go back and have discussions with not only the client, because when it all comes down to it, it's their money. They're paying for this process. So they can save money, but we don't want it to come at the cost of their envelope being successful. So, whether it is product, product review and rejection, details, how the whole thing goes together, the edges of a system. If we've got a metal panel, how does it interact with the roof system? How does it interact with the foundation? Those are all things that are important, and we still, as an architect, I still have to be involved in.
Makes total sense. All right, we're going to move on to our last topic here today, which is a project you were involved in, I understand.
Yeah, so this is a major semiconductor project that was done in upstate New York over the course of about 6 years. And I was the architect in charge of design and construction for the project. And there was a lot of design assist. I was working at the time for a design build firm that did both architecture, engineering, and construction. That's how really the semiconductor world works. There's a couple of major firms that do most of that. And this project, we had, everything soup to nuts. Very large project. At one point, it was the largest project in the U.S. And it everything you might imagine existed in it. Now, the problem with that is you can't do it all with a very small design team. So we had a lot of different design assist opportunities in here. And some of them were very successful, and some of them were not very successful, and I spent a lot of time fixing those design assist situations after the fact. So, you know, if we talk about some of the opportunities there, you know, stairs, that was probably the worst situation I've ever experienced in a design assist. We had a structural company come and put their stairs up, and we gave them parameters that they can't go outside the envelope of the stair enclosure. So what did they do? They ran all their steel structure through the envelope of the stair enclosure, and I spent 6 months designing how to fireproof the stair enclosure at this point because we couldn't spray the steel. On the other hand, the first part of the project was not done design assist when we come to the envelope. And the structural team on the job and the contractor designed non-adjustable girts for the metal panel. So we were shimming the metal panel to get it to be flush. And when the subcontractor that was in charge of the envelope came back to us, I came back and I said, listen, why don't we do the second phase and we'll adjust it. So we had that discussion, and it really improved not only the speed of a fairly complex envelope, but also the quality that they got.
Excellent. Well, guys, we're about out of time. Tim, any last comments you'd like to make on this topic?
You know, we see as a product rep, we see design assist as an emerging trend, and understanding that the envelope is a very complex system, and understanding and knowing who your products are, selecting your products and selecting them wisely, and understanding what the background is, what sort of engineering support, what sort of technical support, what sort of experience do your product manufacturers have, are really an invaluable resource that can't be overlooked during a design build or design assist situation. So,
Ralph, any final comments?
2 items. One of them would be costs, and just making sure that everybody's aware of budgets on the project so that you're not spinning your wheels at the end after you have a beautiful design set up that you're going to VE product out. That's probably the worst thing you could do for yourself. And second of all, it's the big one on any design assist project, you have to have communication. Open lines of communication constantly is going to be the only way to really push a successful project.
Bill, any final comments?
You know, I think I'll take the one thing that I think ties all this together, and it's education. I mean, that's what the convention is about, and it's about what the profession of architecture in a lot of respects is about. There has to be a lot of education that exists from a product manufacturer standpoint. You know, you need to be educating us as the design professionals, but then also from a design professional standpoint, you know, our role is to educate why we're doing certain things. So when we talk about an envelope, why is this what I'm looking for? Is it an aesthetic reason? Is it a performance reason? Is it a code reason? And then lastly, as we bring a contractor into the whole mix, you know, they need to be willing to educate on what the best way is to build and, you know, to really put this together. So there's a lot that goes into this whole discussion, and we have to get out of the whole concept of a silo. We all work individually because we can't do that any longer. Times are getting tighter, you know, budgets are getting smaller, and you know, owners are spending money in different locations, and we still have to provide the same quality of service. So.
Very good. Well, thank you, folks. I believe that uses up our time for this session. Thanks again for attending.
Excellent. Thank you so much.